Okay, so let's understand clearly what we would like to do. So we'd like to calculate the average of n numbers. So the program should ask you to enter this number n. How many numbers do you want to have the average of? And then we enter the numbers. So this number that is going to be entered by the user, the number of numbers, has to be non-positive. If it's non-positive, I mean, it has to show some message, an exception that's been thrown and caught with the message, this must be positive. And also, if there is any exception as the user is entering the n numbers, so the user is entering now, the first time he wants to have 5 numbers, let's say to have the average of 5 numbers. So we press 5 as the first n. So this is the n is equal to 5. So we're going to be asking him to enter 5 numbers. For each number that he enters, if there is an exception, we need to show an error message, there's a problem, and then ask him to enter the number again. So that exception, I showed some of you, it might also be like, extend this to be like a negative, but if you do it for any exception, you can add it as the negative as one of the exceptions. So let's try to answer it the simplest way possible. The simplest way possible is the way that you know. What is the way that you know? You know working without exceptions, right? So let's just do this without exceptions first, and then try to deal with exceptions. Try always, when you build a solution based on something that you know, that you control, and then you can improve it later on to something that you need to be doing, like, for example, using exceptions and so on. We know how to calculate the average of n number, as used to enter n numbers. So let's do that regardless if it's an exception or not. Then I'm going to be looking at where should I put an exception, how should I deal with it, if I'd like to make it repeat, how should I do that, and so on. Trying to solve the problem all at once is not a good idea, because it will make you lose a lot of time. So that's the best approach for you. Use what you know, and then extend it to something that you are going to be learning how to use. So that's what we're going to be doing. Then now the question is not do this with exceptions. Just ask the user to give us how many numbers he wants, and we're going to be displaying the average of those numbers that he entered. Regardless of whatever he entered, we're going to be assuming that there are no exceptions, and so on. Afterwards, we're going to improve the program. So how to do that then? Now that we simplified it, it will be straightforward, right? What should I do? I need to declare something. N. Or let's put it 0. I need a scanner, because I'm asking the user to give me something. Let's in or KB or whatever. We used to use KB, so let's stick to KB. New system.in. And now we just need to ask the user how many numbers do you want to enter? And n equals kb dot, it should be next int. So we got the number. Now that we have the number, we're going to be, we can do 2 ways in order to calculate the average. Either we use an array and then store all the values inside of the array, and then calculate the total of the array and then display it, which is, it's okay, but it's a waste of resources, because we can do it without the array by just doing something like this. Int total, and put it as 0, and then have some for loop that's for I equal to 0, I less than n, total is equal to total plus something that the user is going to give me. And I'm going to be telling him, please enter number, and then I, for example. But I going to start from 0, so I plus 1, or maybe start from, it will be easier to leave it as I, maybe more efficient to leave it as I and put the equal sign here. Whatever. So now that we have this, it's going to calculate the total for us. Now, the average is total divided by 2.0, just to have the result in y2. Should be n. Yes. Yeah. So it's n, and one of them should be double. So let's, or you know what? Leave the total to be double, and that's it. Make the total double, and then the result is going to be double. Putting an int inside of a double is not a problem, because this is going to return an int, then I'm putting it into a double. Fine. It's the opposite that is causing a problem, but now I divide a double by an int, the result is going to be double. So it is going to be working, inshallah. Fine. Let's try it. Are we confident this is enough? How many numbers do you want? 3. 1, 2, 3. Average is 2. Fine, it's working perfectly. Now let's try to deal with those exceptions now. So exceptions can happen many places. The first one is here, for example. First of all, because the user can give me enter a number and then it enters p. Well, that's going to create an exception. So how to manage that? We need to put this into some sort of a try-catch, right? So let's put this and surround it with a try-catch. There's an easy way when you just select some piece of code, some lines, and then this is going to appear. Then you have this surround with, and then you select whatever you want to, you would like to surround it with. Either put it in a comment, or sometimes you can add this edit fold. This edit fold is just going to add something that will allow you to fold the code if you want, but we don't want to do that. And we would like to surround this with a try. Now you can see it gives me the try, catch, and this is just prepared for me. I just need now to catch and do something with the whatever I catch. So now if there's an exception, what should I do? Well, first of all, let's just discard this whatever was entered by doing this next line, because whatever was entered wrongly that generated an exception is going to be staying there, and this is not something that you would like to accept. Next line. This next line is going to, for example, if I run this and type p, this p is going to stay until I use this next line to get it out. So because I would like to repeat, if there's a mistake, I would like to repeat. So now this part over here is going to ask how many numbers do you want, and then we enter some numbers. But for example, I can, to the answer to this question, I can put 0.5. And this is still something that's not correct, because I ask for an int, I'm giving it a double, it's going to raise an exception. But because I said this, so it discarded it, and then this was trying to do something that was not supposed to be done, because now n is 0, I'm trying to divide by 0. So anyways, this is why I'm seeing this in not a number. N stands for not a number, not a number. So I'm getting ready because I'd like to display that the number was entered, the incorrect number. Incorrect or error, let's say error. We need a positive integer. Something like this. So now it's going to show me this. I'd like it to repeat again. How should I do this repeat? Again, select, surround with. I'd like to have this while. So while there's some condition. So what is the condition? I'm going to use this boolean, as we've seen, I've done it before. Make it false, and then if it's not done, if it's false, not done is going to be true. So the first time it's going to get in, right? It's going to do something like this. If everything works fine, I'm passing this line. That means there were no exceptions. and I'm going to say that done is equal to true. Now next time it's going to go here, done true, not done is going to become false, so it will get out of the loop. This way I'm going to be repeating if I have an exception. If I don't have an exception, I'm going to continue and move on. So let's test it. I'm going to run. How many numbers do you want? -5. Oh no, this wasn't. I did not put something about -5 because -5 is not going to be raising any exception, right? -5 doesn't raise any exception. I will add this later on, but for now let's say 2.5. These are the numbers I would like to enter. 2.5 numbers is going to raise an exception. This line was never reached. That's why I'm seeing how many numbers do you want. So I went again and I asked the question again, how many numbers do you want? So if I enter, for example, again, something that is not what it was expected, error, we need a positive number, so it will stay there until we enter something that is positive. Now it will ask us enter the first number, the second, and so on. I pressed 9 and then we have 9 numbers, and this is the average of those 9 numbers. However, if I enter -5, this is going to be accepted as a value. It was not raised as an exception. So what I'm going to be doing, if immediately after getting the number, I'm going to put an if. If that number is negative, then what should I do? I'm going to throw a new exception. In that new exception, I'm going to say negative number. Negative number, that's a nice negative number entered. And then semicolon. Now what I'm going to be doing, if the number is negative, I'm going to create an exception so I can get inside here. And then I'm going to say error, we need a positive number. And then if I would like to see the error message, I need to use this get message. System out dot print line. Let me put maybe just this one without going back to the line, so I can put a space in here, print line e.get message. So this get message is going to show me this thing over here, right? Negative number is entered. This is the message that is going to be displayed. Whatever. I can just keep it without that. It's just I don't have to do that, but it just maybe it's going to give me more explanation on where did I get this from. Just let's try it without any get message, and then we add the get message just to see for fun how it looks like. Now if I run this, it still works with P, with 5.5, a double, and then if I enter something, you see how we didn't hear how many.
Because the print line.
Yeah, I moved the print line. Okay, let's put it back. It doesn't look good. And now again, how many numbers do you want? Okay, 2.5. Okay, P. And now if I put -5, it's going to still tell me error. How many numbers do you want? So this is one thing that is completed. I finished doing this while just to deal with this line. So look how many code we added just to be able to deal with the exceptions and allowing the repetition until we get a correct value. Before, we only had this, right? We only had this. Now we had to add some try-catch, and we had to add some loops to be able to repeat until we get the correct number. Okay? Now we'd like to be doing the same thing here. So the same logic applies. We'd like to repeat this for the 5 numbers. For each of those numbers, if there's something wrong, we'll ask him to give it again. So we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be surrounding this into a try-catch. Try this. If there's a problem, tell that there was a problem, and then we need to repeat. But actually, I need another loop in order for it to repeat. So I'm going to just say the number, a wrong number.
Why don't we make all of them just one try catch?
We can, but we would like to catch each one separately, so we can deal with it separately. But we can, yeah. We can do like a big try catch, and then, but then, no. In this case, it will not work really. Why? Because we would like to have this try catch within this 4. Because if there's a problem with one of the numbers, let's say the user is going to enter 10 numbers, n is equal to 10. So the first number is okay, second is okay, third is okay, and then the fourth is he entered minus something, or p, or whatever. Then I would like to ask him to just that number to give it to me again. If I use like a general try catch, it will get out of this loop and go to the catch, which is going to be global. And it's going to be hard to go back to where I stopped at. So I will start over if I need to do a loop, and I don't want to do that. So this is what I would like to do, just a small return. The loop is going to be here. So if this, I'm going to say it's wrong number, and because it was a wrong number, I just would like to discard it again. I'm going to be doing something like this. Next line. And so it's going to discard whatever was entered. And so even if he entered something that is wrong, like p or 2 point something that is not an int, because here I'm just having adding ints. So if he adds a double, it's going to be a problem. Now I'd like him to restart. Do this again. I'm going to be using the same done equal to false, and then surround this with the while again, because I don't know how many times he's going to be repeating, depending on how many times he makes the mistakes. And then with the while here, with true, I'm going to say while it's not done, it's going to repeat. And when everything is okay, I'm going to say done equal true. So this way, if there's any problem, it's going to go to the catch and go back and ask the same number again. If there was no problem, then get out, no need to repeat, and get out and go for the next number, the next loop. And this way it's going to be repeating as many times as there's a mistake. Do we need to check if it's negative? If we'd like to check if it's negative, the same principle here. The same thing if we'd like that to not allow negative numbers to be added as totals, we need to be doing something like this. However, we're doing something like in two things here. We're getting the number and then we're adding it to the total. Now, if we need to test this number here. So how to test that number? We cannot test it until we need to declare that number somewhere. So I'm going to say that int number equal something that is going to be given to me from here, and then if it's not a negative number, then I can add it, because if it was a negative number, I'm not going to be adding it. I don't want to add it. It's going to raise an exception here and go, I don't want to add here. If again this number is negative, I'm going to say negative number is entered, and I'm going not to reach here unless I passed this line without any exception, and the number is not negative, and then I can add it to the total, so I can calculate the average later on. Do you think it's okay? Will it work? Let's try. How many numbers do you want? 5. Number 1, 5, 2, and then under P. This is enter number 3, right? Wrong number. Enter number 3. So it stays at the same number. So the same number 3 was entered. So I'm going just to add 0, 0, 0, because I just would like to make sure that the total is going to be 7 divided by 5. Well, let's not make it 7. Let's make it something that is easily dividable by 5. I'm going to put 3 and then 0, 0. And I'm going to see that it's 10 divided by 5, because it was number 1 is 5 plus 2 7 plus 3 10 divided by 5 numbers. It's giving me 2. So it skipped correctly the one that was a wrong number, and then it was able to calculate correctly the things. So what we ended up doing, the main difficulty was to find this, because again, as you can see, the same principle applied here. I did not make it's actually the same thing. I'm putting this false and then asking to be repeat if it's not false, and then get the number, and if there's some condition that this number is not respecting, I'm going to be throwing exceptions. If it's not, then I'm going to do whatever I need to be doing. Any questions? Easy? Now?